Let's go. Gabe of Big Man Comics, actually. So a lot of you guys know him through his long history in the mainstream comic book industry. He used to work for DC Comics, and then also now at this point, you know, he works for his own comic book company called Big Man Comics, doing work with Dean Cain, who was, you know, Superman in My Adventures of Superman and Lois. He's also a Family Guy. You know, we both live in California. He's up there in San Diego. I'm down here in good old shit town, actually. Well, you know what's crazy is that your city is actually voted the highest cost of living. People have to run how crazy that is for California, because fun fact, the city of Manhattan actually held that title for many decades, that it was the highest cost of living city on the planet. The fact that that city that you're in overtook that's saying something.
Have you been here?
No, I've been to.
It's literally the nicest city on Earth, not America. Yeah. It's the greatest place to live on Earth. Yeah. We have perfect weather. It's not overcrowded. It has all the amenities of a big metropolitan city, but it's a big little city. It's an amazing city. You know, the beaches here, the weather here, everything here, the culture here. Even though we're in California, it is not a liberal city. This city, San Diego, has more military per capita than any city in America, maybe in the world, because we have the Navy here and the Marines here. You know what I mean? Like Top Gun, that whole thing. That's the Marine Corps Air Station. That's right here in Mira Mesa. We have the 32nd Street Naval Base. We have the Naval SEAL training on Coronado and all that. So this is a military town. So it's a pretty conservative town for California. It really is, for a major city. Because the other two major metropolitan areas, the Bay Area, San Francisco, Los Angeles, they're horrible, like far left nonsense. That doesn't really go on here like it does there. It is the best place to live. It really is. And as far as beauty and weather, you can't beat it. People go to Hawaii and other places. I laugh at that, you know. I went to Hawaii on vacation in 2017. I hadn't been there in years, and I thought, I don't need to come back here. I live in San Diego. It's actually better in San Diego than Hawaii.
Do you know what's crazy, man?
There's a reason it costs as much as it does to live here. And the locals, we call it the sunshine tax, because it can be February and it's 65 and blue skies. It can be July and it's 65 and blue skies here. It's amazing living here.
It's crazy that people will say these things about California, because like my town's very similar too. Like it's not a place that people think it is in certain places in California, because I feel like the big cities really determine all the narratives and conversation around California. Because like the big cities are LA, San Francisco, you have a few other places. Sacramento, obviously the capital, will drive a lot of that conversation. Like Long Beach is a place a lot of people talk about. And it's
I consider that all the same. Sacramento, San Francisco, to me, that's all the Bay Area, whatever.
Yeah.
Long Beach, all that. That's all LA. It's all LA.
Yeah, and people think like just because the news only sections on like focuses their conversation on that, then that means it's all California. It's like, guys, it's a big place. And like a lot of people definitely think differently, but it's just, you know, if the news never reports on it, or if nobody really ever hones in on that, then it's just like, oh, well, everything that LA does, and it's just kind of everyone gets blamed for that. And it's like, well, that fucking sucks, because I do not think about all that stuff that they're doing out there. Yeah, I've been to LA. It's pretty sketchy out there.
LA should be amazing, and it's not. You know, horrible government, horrible culture. It should be amazing. All the culture, the restaurants, all that. It should be not a paradise, but it should be an amazing place, LA. And it's just they can't get it right. They're incompetent up there. So, you know.
Oh, well, let's start here with your origin story. So, how did you actually get into comic books? Actually,
I've always liked to draw. Like. 3 years old. Like, I don't remember starting drawing. I was just drawing all the time. My earliest memories of drawing, I was drawing Star Wars battles on huge rolls of butcher paper in the back of my grandparents' restaurant when I was, they would watch me. My brother was in preschool or kindergarten, and my parents were working and going to graduate school and stuff like that. So I would hang out at my grandparents' Mexican restaurant and draw in the back. And I would draw Star Wars space battles. I love Star Wars. Star Wars was my whole world until I was about 12. So I was born in 78. I discovered the Ninja Turtles like in 1990. I think I was 12, and then that took over for Star Wars. But it was really drawing Star Wars stuff and all that. And then I loved old school Nintendo, right? I was born in 78. I got a Nintendo in 88 or 87, and I had Nintendo Power magazine, and I loved some of the drawings in there. There were comic strips in there, and I just loved that whole video game and Star Wars and Ninja Turtle, all that 80s stuff that everybody is appreciating now, that so much of the entertainment is horrible and woke. If you weren't there, I feel sorry for you. If you weren't there in the pre-internet world, see, you're younger than me, but if you grew up and you've only ever known the internet was a thing, I feel really sorry for you.
You're lucky, because I'm actually 29. I've been born in 1994, so I was around for a lot of before the internet came over and infected a lot of people's minds with how certain communities were. It's like, I really do feel like the internet really does warp people's reality and perception of what things actually are, even from back then, even versus now, you know?
Yeah, the internet could do so much good, and it does help and make things convenient and communication and business and all that, but it does so much harm because it creates this like funhouse mirror of reality. You know, like junk food, like artificial ingredients and all that. They are a poor substitute for nutrition. And I feel like social media is a poor substitute for socializing. It's I think, you know, Twitter and Facebook and even YouTube, all these things, they could be used for a lot of good. And I see a lot of things happening. And it's a perverted version of socializing with other human beings, unfortunately. And I think human beings will eventually, hopefully, adapt to it and not be so weird and vicious with each other and the canceling and the strangeness. But I think that the pre-internet, pre-cell phone world, I think it peaked Western culture. It did peak there in I would say the early 80s to the very early 90s, that span there. And that's why so much good music and movies and culture comes out of that, because we were still family focused and we were still conservative American roots, but we had modern-ish technology, you know, and great ability to make movies and TV and all that, even special effects and all that. So I think that's a zenith right there, early mid 80s to very early 90s, when political correctness and woke started to creep in the early to mid 90s. It was mostly made fun of and rejected. It wasn't like it is now, but that you could trace it to then. That's when it kind of was really starting to show up in things, you know, with the race card being played and all this stuff. It was kind of a joke at first, but now it's gotten pretty serious.
There's some stuff you talked about, and peel factor in. I actually met Gabe at the FNT event. We had a long conversation, and something that you mentioned there that I wanted to talk to you about right now, which is, I think you mentioned the whole ignorance is bliss thing. Like, before, we didn't really know about all this other stuff going on. Our ignorance kind of carried our love for it. But then when we started figuring out all the ins and outs of how this stuff was all produced and all the horror stories that came out of it, kind of just like soured your experience a little bit, you know?
It's a little bit like seeing how the sausage is made. It does give you an understanding, but it could also be pretty gross. You know, that's that old saying, you can see how the sausage is made. And if you know about that, it's not very pleasant, but it's delicious. And I do think that, again, social media, some people, they go out there and they don't do their business or their brand or the community any good. You know, they're fighting, they're, you know, doxing, they're all this backroom dealing, all this crazy stuff going on. And it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the fans. It's like, I feel better not knowing Mark Hamill's politics. I feel better when he's just Luke Skywalker. When I start hearing that he hates me and my religion and my beliefs, that doesn't help him. And I don't know how it helps me. So I do think we got to be careful with social media. I mean, you should always tell the truth and stand up for what you believe in. But I think there's a way to disagree with people and not tell them that you hate them. That's absurd. You know what I mean? To dismiss other people as bigots and racists and homophobes and all that, that's lazy and inaccurate. Obviously, it's an ad hominem argument. You don't want to argue the facts or the concept or the philosophy. You just want to say the other person disagrees because they're evil. And that's juvenile. That's like a middle school mentality. So you see a lot of that on social media. And I mean, I like to joke around about things I don't agree with on social media. I don't like to be vicious and all that. I think that's just a bad way to be. But I do think it's one thing we have to keep in mind is, instead of talking about what we hate all the time, why don't we talk about what we love and why it's good and why it's helpful, and kind of persuade and encourage people like, hey, over here, this is something good over here. Why don't we ignore that? And why don't we look at this? Because this is better for us. And I'm trying to do that with my publishing company. We have Dean Cain, All-American Lawman, and multiple other titles in production. and they're fun, they're thrilling, they're uplifting, and that's the point of them. And they're not saccharine, they're not Pollyanna, overly sweet and nonsense. They're really thrilling and exciting. And I capture that zenith of what I consider American pop culture for adventure of the Goonies, the 80s Indiana Jones, Lethal Weapon, Ghostbusters. We capture that spirit of the 80s and early 90s adventure and thrills that people loved, and we capture that with my publishing company. We have some great stuff coming right now. So coming in the very near future, I just got off the phone with some business partners for some major dealings that are really, really fun stuff is happening at Big Man Comics. So everyone out there watching this, head over to bigmancomics.com. I still have 300 and something copies of the first printing.
Yeah, I think I said on Twitter that was my most anticipated indie comic book coming out this year. Actually, I remember when you first showed off the artwork of cover A. It gave me this like James Bond feeling. I was like, man, I just love it. I just want to have it in my hands. Actually, you sent it. It's in my room. It's in my room over there. Man, I love that cover, man. That has to be like the most like James Bond Mission Impossible cover.
Well, I was going for. I told the illustrator Akion something like Die Hard. You got an exploding building. I told him exploding building, attack helicopters. You see them there. A police chase. Look at how great the action is on that police chase there. And a beautiful girl on our dashing hero, Dean Cain, the All-American Lawman, playing the role of Chris Tanaka.
Yeah.
And this is that 80s, early 90s kind of action, and it's all fun. There's no sex, there's no gore, there's no cursing, but it wouldn't be boring for adults. It is for adults to read, absolutely, just like Indiana Jones is for adults to watch, but kids can watch it too, and you don't have to worry that you're reading my comic book to your 8-year-old nephew. You're like, oh God, when you turn the page, that's never going to happen. I'm not going to publish filth like that. That's why I chose to get away from Warner Brothers and all that, because I didn't want to participate in making filth. I don't think that's okay. I was raised that way, that, things that are for private, and they're not for public. You know what I mean? I know I sound like an old man when I talk about things like this, but like just the concept of twerking just disturbs me so much that people do shit like that in public. If you're with your husband and you want to entertain him in the privacy of your own bedroom, fine. Why are you doing that in public? Like, I can't get over that. That's so gross to me.
Well, to be fair, that would go down another rabbit hole. But I'll just answer this. I think that woman just has no respect for her husband.
Right. That's for him. That's not for the world.
But keep in mind, man, if we say that, now we're considered like misogynist. Just saying that. I'm just saying, like, if you tell a woman that you do that in public, you disrespect your husband. She's like, I'm not. It doesn't disrespect him. The guy is cucked. He doesn't say anything because he doesn't want to make a big scene about it. It's like any girl that does it up there in front of your significant other, you just disrespected your husband on a big level. That means basically you just saying you ain't shit, your relationship ain't shit. That's just me, personally. That's how I see it. If you're single, whatever, you're not taken. But if you're doing it like with a partner, I can't do it.
Period. I think even single, like you're disrespecting yourself as a person.
Yeah.
Just this kind of behavior in public. It's like everyone goes to the bathroom, but you shut the door. Leave the door open. Like, my goodness. So that I hate Deadpool, and I know most people disagree with me. Most people love that.
I think he's overrated a little too.
I
honestly
hate it with a I'm not saying it's not good. Deadpool is well written. It's very funny. It's well acted. Good special effects, and it's absolute trash. It's absolute trash. Bad for your spirit. Bad for your mind. I'm not saying it isn't quality. A lot of awful things are made at very high degree of skill. That doesn't mean they're moral. And I think you have to separate the two. A lot of social justice stuff, which I don't think Deadpool is horrible. The quality is actually horrible because they couldn't write their way out of a paper bag. But to me, again, the trashiness in public, I can't wrap my head around that, why people are okay with that. It's just not, it's not okay with me. Like, what disturbed me so much about Deadpool, why I hate it with a passion, is because I know that many children saw it. It's like, oh, it's rated R. It doesn't matter. Grandma and auntie and uncle who are taking a little kid to see it don't know. They think it's R because maybe there's some violence or whatever. But he looks like Spider-Man. So let's take 8-year-old Jimmy there to see a movie with cocaine and dildo jokes in it. Like, this is so wrong to be putting this out there for young people. It's absurd, dude. So to me, that's a big thing for me, is trashiness. I was raised I wasn't allowed to watch movies growing up or listen to worldly music or anything like that. We had like 6 video cassettes or 10 of them at the house, and it was just Star Wars, Indiana Jones. I wasn't allowed to listen to Guns N' Roses and Poison and all that stuff that was popular growing up. And I thank God I wasn't allowed to get brainwashed by that filth. And I think going forward, that's a key thing for my company, is to make the highest quality entertainment, but it's safe. There's not filth in it. We don't have ugliness and all that kind of stuff. That's very important to me. I really, really despise that kind of stuff. I hate it so much. Like Deadpool, there are 2 movies I've wanted to walk out of in my life. Junior, where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito do some weird scientific experiment. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a baby. That is literally the worst movie ever made. And the second worst movie I've ever been to is Deadpool.
You're talking about the very first Deadpool, right?
I didn't even bother with the second one because I hated the first one so much. So
yeah, I think that was a controversy when it dropped. Like, parents were like, "What the hell is this?" Because they saw the Marvel logo on it.
Right.
That's back, and then they took them. They didn't even know what the context of the character was. That's how casual people are with superheroes. They just saw Marvel on it and they just took their kids to it.
Right, and it's so filthy. It's insane to me. It's just like, are you kidding me, dude? So, and again, I'm not a prude about sexuality. It's like, like with your wife or whatever in your privacy of your home, it's a great thing.
Yeah,
but it's not for public consumption. I don't know why I have to explain this to people. Holy shit, dude.
Oh, because I think it comes down to something that I rationalize with a lot of people when we talk about this kind of thing is, do you know how back in the day, like, your parents were like really stern and like they were just very firm on standing on this is what we believe and stuff like that, from people like that thought like that back then.
Right.
I feel like a lot of it came down to basically people started kind of letting their guard down. It's like that stern dad who doesn't let their daughter go out and do anything, and then when she gets older, she's like the good sane daughter instead of the parent that's a little bit more frivolous, that's a lot more lenient. I think people just got a lot more lenient. They started doing that thing of like, oh, it's just a one-time thing. It's never a one-time thing. Anytime you do that, it always leads down a rabbit hole of like, oh, it's just one time. It's just this once. Yeah.
Well, no, in the universe, nothing is static. Everything is dynamic. That means it's moving in a direction. Nothing just freezes in time. Not even the mountains. The rain wears those away over millions of years. Nothing is static. Everything is dynamic. So in life, human beings, you are either getting better or you are getting worse. There is no freezing. So culture rejected father, right, through the 60s Cultural Revolution, and going back to the Bohemians and the communists like 100 years ago. Kick the father out of the family, kick religion out of culture, kick patriotism out. And this is what you get. When you have people that don't have fathers, or they have weak fathers, and they hate the concept of father and authority and rules and all that, of course, this is the society you get. And it's nothing new. Like, oh, this happened to America and the West. No, this happened to the Greeks. It happened to the Mongols. This is historically what always happens, is that cultures get too successful. They get too fat, lazy, and comfortable, and they take their foot off the gas. They don't feel scared anymore. They don't feel ambitious anymore. They don't feel like there's something to defend because, hey, food, clean water, electricity, it all comes from somewhere. I don't know. Maybe Santa Claus brings it. I don't know. I saw a video the other day of just a guy walking around with like his cell phone, like, hey, do we need men? And he's just asking like college-age girls, like they're out partying for the night.
I see. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like, do we need men? Do we need men? They're like, no. And it's just like, you're like, do you know what percentage of people run the electrical plant, run the water plant? Who's my brother works in the oil fields. You ever see what that kind of work is like? You know what I mean? Like, where do you think all this stuff comes from? You ever been to a military graveyard? And this is to not discount women. Women are 50% of the equation. You know, the mothers and the women, absolutely, they make our society work. But I think when you forget your heritage and you forget where you come from as a human being, and you don't have any respect for it, these are the consequences. What is happening to the West right now, where it's all falling apart, necessarily has to happen. And I'm conservative. I'm religious and patriotic, but I laugh at my conservative friends that think we can do this without families and religion, because I'll tell them those are the ingredients that made the great society that you love. It's like trying to be a baker and you don't have any flour or eggs. You're not making any cakes without flour. You're not making the America and the West we had without religion and fathers. You're not going to do it, because those are the ingredients. So again, in my art, I want to reflect, instead of scolding everyone, kind of how we are now, instead of scolding everyone, being negative and angry, I want to be fun. I want to make really fun books and really fun things. Yeah. And the message in them is fathers and family and patriotism and bravery, honor, respect, having resolve. All of those things are deeply in the work I do because it's what I believe in and I'm passionate about it. And instead of telling people they're pieces of crap for not believing it, instead of saying you're wrong, what you do, I think, is a storyteller goes, hey, here's why my ideas are good. What do you think? I'm showing them in a good light. I'm using a good story to get you these ideas. What do you think? Because there's scientific research that shows been known for decades, probably centuries, human beings figured this out. Stories are the ultimate form of persuasion. If I tell you a fact, you don't really care because there's no emotion. You don't, well, okay, that's interesting. It's a fact. But if I tell you the same fact wrapped in a story, it hits your cognitive part of your brain, the awake thinking part. It also hits the emotional subconscious. That's where the story goes in. And that's why things like Deadpool and all this stuff are so evil, because they are well done. That is good writing. That is good acting. That is good special effects. But it's an evil message. But it's so well crafted by the artists that make it, it penetrates your mind to the deepest levels, convincing you this evil is true and good and you should live this way and have these attitudes. That's why I fight against this kind of stuff in media, because I know as an artist and a writer and a creator myself, I know the deep level this stuff persuades people. You see the chaos in the world right now, it's because of the media these people consume with no fatherly guidance. They're just on TikTok. They're on Netflix. They're watching and consuming constant filth. What happens to your body if you just eat garbage food? You will become unhealthy. What happens to your spirit if you just consume filth from the internet and stupid, bad ideas? But they're well done. They're tasty. You know, Cheetos are tasty. Turn around and read the ingredients on that. That's not good for you. You shouldn't be eating that. Well, awful TikToks, Deadpool, that's tasty. It is fun. It's very bad for you. You know, and you see it. This is what has to happen when we lose fathers and we have just filth out there. So I'm completely against filth like that. I don't want to help make it.
So this is another thing I wanted to ask you, because you said how you got into comic books in general. How did you start working for DC? You said Jim Lee hired you.
Yes, Jim Lee.
How did that go?
When I was 13, I saw X-Men #1. It had just debuted. I was 13 or 14, something like that. X-Men #1, the highest selling comic book of all time. Had just come out. It was issue 1 of a brand new relaunch series. Jim Lee was the illustrator for that, and I'd never bought comics before. I'd always kind of seen them and liked them. I didn't have any money, but when I was 12, I started mowing lawns for my cousin's lawn service business.
I did the same thing too.
Right.
Yeah.
I made about $40, $50 a week, so I could buy some snacks, and I started buying comics. I was at my friend Sean's house, and I saw he had X-Men 1, and I'd always loved drawing, and I was hooked immediately, and I had to be Jim Lee. I had to work for Jim Lee. I had to become him. Instantly. Who is this? What is this? I started asking all these questions. Sean's mom took us to the comic book store. I remember I bought Aliens versus Predator, and I bought like X-Men issue 4 and like one other book or something like that. And I was just hooked, and I started buying comics since then. Long story short, you know, I draw forever. I submit. A Wildstorm is here in San Diego. I found that out when I was like in middle school or high school. Then I find out Scott Clark, who worked at Wildstorm, one of the first illustrators they ever hired. He worked for, you know, DC, Marvel, Wildstorm. He passed away like 10 years ago. Rest in peace, Scott Clark. He lived 3 doors down from me when I was a senior in high school. I didn't know that. He had lived there for a few years. I didn't know. So I started going to his house. I met him at the basketball court by my house. Started going to his house, getting drawing lessons, asked him about it. I'm 17. I'm a senior in high school. I start submitting 4 pages a week to Wildstorm. I want a job. I want a job. And I keep getting rejection letters. I'm submitting to DC and Dark Horse and everyone, tons and tons of rejection letters. But I would submit 4 drawn pages a week. I still have them all, and I still have the rejection letters, actually. And let me see. I have them in this drawer right here. I keep them right next to where I work, actually.
What the hell?
Well, it's a good thing to do, to keep them around, because it's proof to yourself that not giving up will get you where you want to go. Here's a handful of them. But I would get multiple rejection letters a week from Dark Horse and DC and all that. You know, you see the DC logo right there on that one, the blue bullet. And I would get them from with Spider-Man on the cover. Here's some DC letterhead with a bunch of DC characters on, and I would just get tons of these. And they would send me scripts in the mail. Oh, why don't you try drawing this? Why don't you try drawing that? Oh, it's good, sir, but not good enough. This is in the old days when you would mail them copies. And
back in the day, apparently you had to basically like mail in your submission to basically apply for drawing their characters.
Right. You know? You would draw 4 pages and mail it in. And I would just make up short 4-page stories, and I would mail it to them. And then they would reject you, and you'd do it again. And this is the concept of never. Let me turn off my green screen because it always eats these. So this is 1998. This is 1998. I had met people at Wildstorm, which was a local studio, but here it is. Here's a DC Comics rejection letter. And I have tons of these. And I just keep them right by my desk. These people ended up paying me hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I worked for them for years. I worked for everyone who rejected me. Marvel, DC.
You worked for all of them. DC, Marvel, Dark Horse. Did you ever work for Image, actually?
Oh, yeah. That was my first stuff I did for Robert Kirkman. The first thing ever published for me in mainstream comics was a pinup in Invincible issue 17 or something like that.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's old. Let me see if I can find that here. Let's see.
That's fucking crazy.
I've been working in this business since forever. You know what I mean? Like, let's see. Where would it be? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so anyway, I go to college and I work and I get a job for a big Halloween monster animatronics and props. Like when you go to a haunted house and there's one of those pneumatic monsters that moves.
Yes.
The biggest one in the world is Distortions Unlimited in Colorado. Just so happens to be the city I was born in and went to college in the early 2000s. So I designed a lot of monsters and things for them. And then I start work. I hang out on the Image Comics message boards. I do a pinup for Savage Dragon, for Fear Agent, for Invincible, for Fire Breather. I'm hanging out talking to those Image Comics guys all the time. And I'm also reading Jim Lee's blog every day. He's posting new stuff. People used to use blogs on blogger.com and all that.
Yeah.
And one day I was working on a comic book for an independent guy and coloring it. It was called The Dangerous Dozen. Norm Breyfogle, the great Batman artist, he drew The Dangerous Dozen. And let me see if I can find this. I'm trying to find this old art here. I should have. And I'm working, and it's like 3 a.m, and I'm just tired of working. And I look, and someone has said on Jim Lee's blog, "Hey, Wildstorm is hiring a colorist. You know, apply here if you'd like to do it." So I applied, and 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Jim Lee's assistant wondering if I would like to take the job as a colorist for Wildstorm. So I took it, and I worked there for 3 years in studio as a colorist. And then they closed everything, moved everything up to Burbank, which is north of Hollywood. It's where a lot of the Hollywood studios are in Burbank, California. Mm-hmm. It's just north of the mountain that says Hollywood on it. That's if you can imagine where that is. And I didn't want to move to LA to keep working for DC, so I went freelance. And they offered us work after we quit. They're like, okay, well, you can go freelance and you can. So I worked freelance for DC. But now, since I was no longer a Warner Brothers employee, I was freed up to work for anyone. So then I started working for Dark Horse on Star Wars. I worked on Invincible Universe for Robert Kirkman. He's the Walking Dead guy. I worked on all kinds of things for all kinds of companies. IDW, I've worked on Transformers, Ghostbusters, Borderlands, you name it, I've done it, dude. If it's famous, I've worked on it. The only one I never worked on that I've always wanted to is Ninja Turtles. Because I told you, well, wow. I never worked on anything Ninja Turtles. I could try and get a hold of the IDW guys. I did a lot of work for them. Maybe do a Ninja Turtle cover or pinup. Maybe I'll just ask them. I haven't talked to them in years. But I worked for Tom Waltz, and he was the main editor for that, The Last Ronin book. He was like the writer and editor of that. So, and IDW, they're local here in San Diego as far as the museum, the comic book museum and all that. Mm-hmm. And I believe Kevin Eastman, the co-creator of Ninja Turtles, he lives here too, I believe. Or at least he's always here for that stuff. So yeah, maybe I'll hit them up and say, hey, can I just do like a Raphael Ninja Turtle cover because I love the Ninja Turtles. Anyway, That's how I got into that, went freelance. DC went completely crazy, went woke. We all know how woke the culture's gone the last 10 years.
What was your turning point? Because I was also asking this. What was your turning point where you were like, I am sick of this. They are ruining these characters. I'm done.
Oh, it was Superman, Son of Kal-El, written by Tom Taylor. And they took away his motto, Truth, Justice, American Way. And then they said his underage is the important part to me, his underage son is bisexual, and that's a big part of the story. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing stories where sexuality for underage people is the focus. Because again, I don't even do it where adults are the focus. In my books, even though Dean Cain is James Bond, we don't have him sleeping with women in the book because I don't want that in there. I want middle school age people to be able to read it. And like I said about the filth with Deadpool, I don't believe in doing that in public. In your bedroom with your wife, it's awesome. It's a great thing. I'm not a prude. But in public, it's like the twerking, like the Deadpool, cocaine, and dildos. It's not okay in public. It's not. And I don't want to argue with anyone about that. It's not. So that's why I don't want to be working on a book with underage kids and their sexuality is like we're talking about. Like, yeah. Doing like, no, I don't want to work here. So I was polite and I resigned. I'm like, oh, we love you. Great 14 years working for us, blah, 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 blah. Then I kind of said some things about them, how I was unhappy with them, and it kind of became a media firestorm. It was on Fox News and Newsmax.
Yeah, I remember you blew up for a little bit there. How was that feeling, knowing basically you went worldwide because you said, fuck this?
I think attacking people personally is wrong, and I didn't do that. I didn't say, oh, well, so-and-so at DC personally is a jackass. But to attack a corporation and say you don't believe in that, that's fine with me. Going after someone's family or whatever, like, that's wrong. But to say, like, I don't approve of what DC is doing, sure, I have no problem with going after Warner Brothers. It's a giant company. And I don't have any regrets about that. Absolutely not. You have to speak the truth. God does not give me a gift to make art, be a great writer and a great artist so I can make filth and basically make people's lives worse. When you give people filth, you hurt them. You know, it's like the food analogy I said. If I'm feeding you junk food, even if it's tasty, I'm hurting you if I'm doing that. Imagine you have a baby or a child and you're like, should I feed them fresh homemade food that I chop and cook, you know, real meat and vegetables, or should I just feed them ramen and Lunchables? Like, that's not right to give people filth. You will hurt them. So if I'm an artist and I'm making filth like Deadpool and making filth like the anti-American Superman they wanted me to work on, then I'm hurting people. That's not why I'm gifted. I'm not gifted to hurt people. That's wrong. It's immoral. That breaks my moral code. So I refuse to do it. Went independent, and I never look back, and I'm happier than ever. The projects we have are insanely good. You know, they're wonderful, and the people that have got them are just in love with them. So I'm over the moon. I'm very happy to be doing this, and the future has never looked brighter, you know. So
do you look back on that time period and go, this is like something you could have done? Like, oh, I should have did this a little bit more differently?
Be more specific. I don't know what you mean.
Like, maybe you could have brought up a different point at the moment in time, or like, do you ever like think about it and go, oh, maybe I should have handled it this way differently?
No, because it's a machine, dude. Something that big, it's a machine. You're not in charge. Even Jim Lee himself told me that. And he was talking to some of us in the studio one day, and he said, one thing to keep in mind, you know, about just work and all this is just know where you are on the totem pole. That's how he put it. and I understand that, like, it's Warner Brothers, dude. It's literally one of the biggest companies in the history of the world. They don't give a crap what I have to say about it. They don't need me, and I don't need them. You know, fair is fair. They don't need me, but I don't need them. So whatever, dude. And it's fine to move on from that stuff. It's totally
all right. And the next thing I asked, this is going down this timeline. Eric July. How did you meet Eric July, actually?
It was a mutual person that knows both of us suggested me to him. Suggested me to work for him because he was going to do a comic and he needed a colorist. He had found the illustrator, but he needed a colorist. So someone that we both mutually know suggested me to him. We got on the phone and talking. I started telling about who I am and what I believe in and what I want to do. And it was a good match. It was a good match for the two of us. So we decided to go forward with that. And I'm very happy to be working with them. And I'll tell you, not to give too much away, but there's a lot happening there. There's a lot happening there. Just had some recent discussions. There's a lot of fun stuff coming. So
when I saw number one made $3.7 million, no one was expecting that. Because
I was expecting it to be big. I didn't have I won't lie and say I knew the number, but I was expecting it to be very big. I was expecting, of all the indie comics that have come out like crowdfunding like that, I was expecting it to be the biggest for sure.
Yeah.
Because he's got a huge platform. You know what I mean? And people, I see people make this silly argument like, well, the book only sold because he has a big platform. Let's just say they're right. I don't believe that's why, but let's say they are. Yeah. Well, where did the platform come from? Eric's dad doesn't own YouTube and gave him a channel with 500,000 followers. Eric built that by being entertaining. Obviously, people want to watch him or they wouldn't sub and watch. Because I heard people criticize the great Doug TeNapel, who I love, friend of mine. We're going to work again on Bigfoot Bill 3 eventually.
He's the guy, people don't know, Common America Iconic Comics, actually.
No. Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim, yeah.
That's Doug TeNapel. You're thinking of Doug Ernst.
There's a guy. Man.
I don't know Doug Ernst. I don't know him. I know they do what I hear are good comics, and they put them out on time. So God bless them. I don't know anything about them though, so I can't speak on them.
20 people with the same name around here.
Right. But Doug TeNapel, oh shit, I forgot what I was going to say about him. What was I saying about Eric and then him? Oh, people were saying, oh, well, Doug TeNapel's book, Earthworm Jim, it only made 800,000 because he used an established character, Earthworm Jim, from the video games from the 90s.
Yeah.
And then I thought, yeah, but he created Earthworm Jim, the video game, so it's still him. It's like Eric created the YouTube channel with 500,000 followers, so it's still Eric. Like, it's still his success and skill, even if you want to try and diminish the quality of the book or whatever, that's up for opinion. But it's like to diminish Earthworm Jim. It's like, well, who do you think created the character? Doug animated that and illustrated it and even voiced it in the video game. So still wrong. But, Deion Sanders, the Hall of Fame football player, the coach of the CU Buffalo college football team, multiple Super Bowl winner with the Cowboys and the 49ers, just one of the greatest football players ever. I saw him talking about haters, and this thing, he said, they don't boo nobodies. So if you got haters, it means you did something. I think it was, who was the British leader in World War II? I just have the other one, Nigel, stuck in my head. But Winston Churchill, paraphrasing him, I'm not quoting, but he says, if you have enemies, it means you stood up for something. It means you've accomplished something. You know what I mean? So when you see the people hating on Eric July or hating on me or hating on anyone, I just laugh and feel sorry for them, because it's like, you wouldn't hate on someone who'd sold 10 copies of a book, or put out a book and then never published it or whatever. Someone who had failed, you wouldn't criticize them because there's nothing to criticize. There's a reason people hate on Tom Brady, right? They hate on Deion. There's a reason, and it's because they're jealous. And you as the object of their hate, you can't get caught up. You can't argue back and waste your time. You can't get in the mud with these people. You just got to actually feel sorry for them. And as the Bible says, you actually pray for your enemies. You do. So I try to avoid that at all costs. Any getting in the mud or getting weird with people, like, there's nothing to win there. You're just going to make yourself look like a fool if you get into that. So.
Yeah, because that's what I've told people throughout the years, even when I've been on YouTube and stuff like that, is when you argue with people like that, they already have a preconceived notion of you, a preset mindset on you as a person. Nothing you do, nothing you say is going to matter. And it's like, why would you waste the time? You know?
Right. Well, again, it's just being negative. We want to be positive. Do we want to share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
So here's what we've got so far. We've got this. Promises made, promises kept. It was, the money came in on the crowdfunding. We made the book. It's beautiful. It's a success. Everyone that has read it loves it. So there you go. We made a promise and we kept it. So now we're moving forward. We have multiple projects coming. I have a couple I'm not going to mention or show here, but I put out this teaser the other day. So there is a volume 2 coming. The Hong Kong connection. I'm trying to capture a lot of that excitement of the international intrigue, like James Bond and all that stuff from the late 50s into the 60s. I want to capture that in this second volume, but also have a wink and a nod to the 90s Hong Kong cinema, the 80s and 90s. I loved Southeast Asian stuff like Double Impact and Bloodsport and Kickboxer, all the great Van Damme stuff like that. So that's why I'm setting it out in Hong Kong, because I love all that stuff, Bruce Lee, all of it. So that will be coming. But before that, we have this, because the illustrator of this, Akeon, he is illustrating this. This is, if you love Interstellar and Star Wars, this is a combination of those two sort of themes.
Oh, it's cool as hell.
Yeah, this is Empyrean, Earth Illuminated. Empyrean is a Latin word. It means the highest realm where God is and all that. And that has a lot to do with the story. And this is basically authoritarian governments and rebels like Star Wars, but it also has the family and the love. It's a husband and wife team in this one. Elvira and Oliver, and they got a family, and there's a lot of great sci-fi in this, and you'll absolutely love this. And again, this goes back to my love of Star Wars. I told you that was like the first thing that I started drawing when I was a little kid, and this book is in production already. This is being drawn as we speak, and I'm going to follow the Eric July model, which I think is the superior model, to finish the books, finish them, and then put them on sale, and then a month or two later put them out. So have the campaign. And I am not criticizing anyone who uses crowdfunding. I just used it for Dean Cain Volume 1. Crowdfunding is a wonderful thing for the people that need to use it. That's great. I would prefer not to do it, and now I'm in the position not to, and I think that's better for the customer. Because I think, to me, the number one thing is the customer experience. I heard Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, brilliant businessman, talking about that as a engineering firm, which is what Apple ultimately is, he would start with the customer first and the engineering second. He didn't like the idea of his engineers going, hey, we got this idea for a concept for technology. Let's figure out who to sell it to. It's like, no. It's like, let's start with the customer. We can build the technology around that. So to me, it's like, if I can serve customers better, give them these great, exciting, entertaining stories, but I can get them to work faster after they purchase it, I would prefer to do that. So I like to follow in the footsteps that Eric July has shown of finish these books, put them on sale, then get them out faster. As opposed to, I put Dean Cain out in July, and I was not able to put it out, sell it start mailing them out till March. I don't want people waiting like that if they don't have to. And again, no criticism of people who crowdfund. Do it if you need to. That's awesome. Again, I've done it twice because I needed to. I no longer need to. So yeah, be very excited about this. And I have some other amazing stuff coming too, and also in the works. I am actually today, when we're done, continuing concept art, which I guess I won't really show you up close. The green screen eats all this stuff. If you like Goonies, do you like the Goonies? Do you think the Goonies?
I actually never watched that, honestly.
Oh my God,
I didn't have a dad. We had no money.
Oh, well, if you like the Goonies, if you like Stranger Things, right? Because that's what Stranger Things is like a spiritual successor to the Goonies. If you like Stranger Things for the modern audience or Goonies, you're going to love this other book. And I'm actually drawing it. Let me get the dang art in here. It's middle school kids in the 90s. They figured out this insane, scary, but really fun conspiracy with some really bad stuff happening. And they're out to solve the problem as a group of kids. I think that's one of the most fun themes in cinema and books and all that, is the group of middle school aged adventurers. And I'm doing it with a very good friend of mine. Let me see. Let me grab this here. Hold on. I have this right here. I'll open this up. And I'm a graphic designer too. That's actually what I got my degree in college, is graphic design. So I love making the logos. Like on Empyrean right here, I made the logo for that. I made the Dean Cain logo, that really cool logo with the gun in it and all that. So I really love doing the graphic design aspects and not just the drawing and the writing. Can you share my screen again?
Yeah.
So that Glock pistol handle with the Dean Cain thing on it. I loved like this Hong Kong connection. You see those Hong Kong, the words are like moving around like that. That is really an homage to like 50s and 60s kind of design.
Yeah, I like it. Really pops out. Yeah.
It's supposed to like have that movement of a James Bond, that jazz music, all that stuff. That's what I'm going for there. Well, here's another one. And this is actually the Adobe InDesign document. So it has a few things on it, but I settled on the one in the center, and it's Jericho Green and the Hammerheads. That is the group of middle schoolers taking place in the Bay Area in the 90s, where they have to solve this dangerous mystery. And it's Goonies, it's Scooby-Doo, it's Stranger Things. It's really fun, this one. And I'm really excited about this. So and I have another book, but I'm not even going to touch that one yet, because that one's super secret and you won't believe what it is until you see it. You're going to be blown away. So we're having a ton of fun here. If you see this, go to bigmancomics.com. You can still get yourself a copy of this. There are, I think I have over 300 left of the first printing. That's not many. I had thousands. And when the first printing is gone, it's gone forever. I will reprint Dean Cain All-American Lawman Volume 1, but it'll have different covers and it'll be noted that it's a second printing. I will reprint it. There's demand. But I do want to sell out of these first printings first. So go check that out today. So.
Oh, because I wanted to ask you about this too, since you at the meetup you gave out Truth and Justice in the American Way. Do you still have that for anyone that wanted to potentially read that from you?
I do, but I don't have it on my web store. That if they email me, Gabe Eltaeb illustration @gmail.com, then they can ask me about it there. But I don't sell it on my web store. We had some legal difficulties with the co-creator of that, and bottom line, I was ripped off for tens of thousands of dollars and had to get a lawyer involved. It was not. It was nasty business.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah. Well, according to my attorney, that is a material breach of contract when you agree to draw a book and then you don't do it, but you take tens of thousands of dollars.
That's so. Sorry that happened to you, man. Yeah.
No, it's good.
The art looked so good. I was like, well, if I'm going to get everything that you already going to put out, I'm like, well, I probably should get that too. Because I remember that's your first book that you put out.
I ended up having to illustrate that one. Now I had Akion's help. Akion is the illustrator of Dean Cain All-American Lawman and Empyrean. And he did the layouts for me. So layouts is like they'll sketch out the page and it's like, okay, we'll draw it this way. So I did that to speed things up. You know what I mean? And he's such a pro. He's been animating and illustrating for 30 something years. So I leaned on him. I said, hey man, can you do layouts for me in this book? And he did it. So, and for those of you that don't know, that's not uncommon. The great Jim Lee, his Punisher run in the 80s, that's not him. That's Carl Potts. The inker Carl Potts was a veteran compared to Jim Lee, who was like 25 at the time. Carl Potts laid out most of that Punisher stuff, and then Jim Lee did the finishes on it. That's a very actually normal thing, even for superstars. People don't talk about it, and I don't know why. I think because they have ego involved or something.
It's always ego.
There's a weird thing, and it's just in American comics. It's a weird insecurity / ego.
Yeah.
Where people want to be like, I'm all self-taught. I do it all myself. And I think that's foolish. When you get into animation and Disney and all the great studios there, the tradition, the way that works is you have the masters, the keyframe animators. They do the big pose in the cartoon. Then the younger guys will do the in-betweens, all the movement in between. There's the simpler, the busy work. And you learn from the masters. You trace their work. You copy their work. You ask them questions. It's no different than football. If I wanted to be a quarterback, why wouldn't I watch videotape, talk to, and copy Peyton Manning or Tom Brady? Why wouldn't I do that? I'd be an idiot not to if I had it available to me. So when you're an artist and you're less experienced, no matter your age, of course you go to older artists. You ask them for help, ask you to show them things, and you take as much of it as you can get. Because ultimately what you have to remember is the guy that you're going to for help, he didn't invent it either. Someone showed it to him. Nobody invented art. It just exists as part of nature and science. These are just the concepts of optics. That's all art is. It's just the concept of the visual patterns of optics. So nobody invented art. There's no original guy that invented it. It's just part of our brain's understanding of patterns. So of course you go to older artists and ask them for help, for layouts, for concepts. And there's this weird snobbery in American comics that not all people have, but a lot of them were like, no help, all me. And it's like, dude, how insecure are you? It's weird. It's weird to me. I'm glad I'm not.
Well, based off that, a lot of people won't actually even improve because I think a lot of people don't understand that at all. The way you improve is if you go and look at what better people are doing and you go, wow. That happened with me a lot of things where like I would look at someone better than me, bigger, and I'd be like, how do I get better at this? And then I'll have this mind-blowing epiphany and be like, wow, I'm like legit trash. I need to get better. That's how you improve.
Just copy what they're doing. They didn't invent it. You're allowed to look at Michael Jordan's form and Larry Bird's form. You're allowed to look at how they shoot the ball and copy. Yes, because they didn't invent it, dude. Like nobody.
If you tell someone you like Michael Jordan more than LeBron, and that they'd be like, what? Good Lord.
That's the young generation. And I'm here to tell you, 45 years old, I saw all of Jordan's career. I saw all of Kobe's career. LeBron is trash compared to those guys. He couldn't hold their jock. He couldn't. He's not the GOAT, dude. He's not.
Yeah.
Jordan's the GOAT. If I'm starting a team and they say you can pick one player to start your team, of course I'm picking Jordan. If they say you can't pick Jordan, then I'm picking Shaq. Say you can't pick Shaq, I'm picking Kobe. I'm picking Bird. There are 10 guys I'll pick before LeBron because he might be the most physically talented guy to ever play. He's the biggest wimp to ever play mentally. He doesn't have it right here.
Dude, do you remember that Miami finals they had against the freaking Spurs that one year? He was saved by Ray Allen. People forget, if Ray Allen didn't make those clutch threes, they are out. He had his career saved by a lot of people, but since he's the big name, he gets all the credit and shit.
Well, I'm glad my Denver Nuggets. I'm from Colorado, remember?
I'm a Laker fan. Yeah, we blew us out pretty hard.
Own him. I'm glad the Nuggets are his daddy, dude. There's nothing he can do.
Oh, gosh.
I can't stand LeBron. He's one of the worst villains in all of sports history. He's such a. How could you be that physically masculine and powerful, and then in your brain you're like a whiny middle school little kid? Like
everyone kept telling him he was the GOAT, even before he had ever proven himself. Everyone kept telling him he was the GOAT. That's how it is. Ego just blew in this guy's brain. He's
the perfect hero for millennials and Gen Z, I guess. For social justice warriors, he is the perfect hero. He's exactly like them. He's intolerable, that guy.
Well, since you're an artist, I wanted to get your opinion on this. What do you think about AI art then, actually?
I think it could be useful as a tool to speed up production. I think AI is here to stay. And I think it's unfortunate. I think it's going to hurt a lot of things. And it's not going to just hurt the arts. It'll get rid of accounting jobs. It's going to get rid of so many jobs. And that should really concern people. It really should. And I think AI will quickly get to the level where it will replace comic book illustrators. It will replace animators. It will replace writers. It will quickly get there. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. And I think if you want to be a producer of this stuff like me, you had damn better build your social media platform. You better build your Twitter, your Instagram, your YouTube, all of it. Because what people are going to end up buying, the way they're going to buy your product is because they like you first. So it's like they like Gabe on YouTube and my takes and this and that. And that's a new phase for me because I've always just kind of done it. Because you cannot be a YouTuber and a comic book creator. You can't. You have to be a YouTuber that makes comics. Or you're a comic guy that does some YouTube. And that's where I am. I'm a comic book guy that does some YouTube, does some Twitter. Yeah. Well, I'm getting my first employee now for Big Man Comics. They're going to handle all my social media. So the social media is going to be great now. The quality of my social media is going to jump through the roof now because I have a person dedicated. I've tried to serve two masters for years. You can't. Comic books just take too much time. And that's where I'm best at. That's where I need to focus my energy. So the social media, I'll take my foot off the gas and let someone run it for me. I'll just record a video, a wireless hard drive. They'll take the video off the hard drive, edit it, blah, 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 and put it up. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. So I'm going to have full-time running that. So I think with AI here and its ability to create great art in the very near future, people better make themselves the product. And it's like, I'm the product. And then you see my comics and you want to get them because you like me. And then you read mine and, oh, wow, they are really good. It's not just YouTube channel merch. It's like, oh, wow, his books are actually really good because the competition is going to be fierce out there now with AI. Yeah. You know, it's going to be really bad. And all kinds of people who, in my opinion, as an artist, who I have earned the ability to write and draw, I resent it. It's like, how dare you push a button and write a story? How dare you push a button to make a comic book page? I don't respect it. All art is human self-expression. I got to go here in a minute. It's almost noon. But I'll say
this. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left for the minimum for the show. Yeah.
I gotta go a little sooner than that because I gotta get something ready.
Okay, it's fine.
But let me try and end it on this. All art is self-expression. So whether it's singing, dancing, even making a beautiful meal, everything is art that way when you are expressing the self. And AI art is art. It's really art. And the people who make it are artists. But here's the downside to that. What they're expressing is terrible. Their self-expression when they want to lean on AI art is they are too lazy and entitled to really learn the skills by hand. That's what they're expressing. They're not expressing about life and love and redemption and all the great things that art can express. They're expressing that they're lazy and they don't really want to learn to become a real human artist. So I see it as legitimate art, but I see it as crap. Just like Deadpool. It's real art. It's well done, but it's crap.
Yeah.
You know, I hate AI, but you're foolish if you think you're going to stop it.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand from a business point of view that why wouldn't a business want to cut out all these jobs so they save money, actually?
And AI has its uses. Imagine you write something and you're like, I can hire an editor to check the spelling. Or I can just throw it into the AI and say, hey, can you check the spelling on this? It's done in a minute. Right? I mean, okay, now I don't have to pay someone. So AI is useful in regards like that. I had a problem with my Nintendo Switch where I didn't know how to do something to activate an external control. I'm not a gamer, dude, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can't get this controller to pair with the thing and blah, blah, blah. How do I do X, Y, and Z? And I asked ChatGTP how to do it, and it told me exactly how to do it. I had another technical problem with my printer. My printer quit working suddenly. You know how printers are, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. And I have a thermal printer to print the labels to mail the Dean Cain books and all the merchandise out. And it just quit working. The computer could no longer see it, but it was there. I hadn't touched anything. I didn't turn anything off or on or this and that. And I explained the problem to AI, and it told me exactly how to fix it. I had to fix it in 5 minutes. It said, go into your Mac, go into the settings for a reset printer settings, delete all of that, go to the website, re-download the drivers, turn the computer, turn the printer off, turn them all off, turn it back on, and it'll work. And it did. So AI is super useful. But like every tool, there are awful uses for it, right? So
yeah. It's just one of those things where, you know, when it comes to like art, I don't know. I guess I'm like you in that sense. I kind of like art being drawn just like this. Honestly, right. I like my art like that. Yeah.
By hand. You know, even the iPad is an amazing device for drawing. Like Procreate, like mimics life drawing.
Yeah.
But I still gonna draw on paper and scan it because I just prefer it that way. It's just. I've been doing it for 40-something years that way. And I think that is the true expression. I really think for young artists, it's a tragedy to see so many mainstream Marvel and DC artists. You can see that they're drawing on an iPad and Procreate because it's all looking the same now, dude. It's getting so generic. And that is one problem with AI. Since the AI is everyone uses the same main AIs, that art all has a certain look to it. And I wonder how the AI people are going to get around that, where I can always tell AI art when I see it.
Same here. Yeah.
I think everyone can, and I can hear it when I read it. People claim to write something like, no, that's AI. I can tell. I scolded someone for that the other day. They wrote something and showed it to them. I'm like, don't use AI. And they just kind of like looked down. I'm like, I know what you're doing. Don't do that. Like, use AI to check this one or something, or to sum something up. Don't use it to write a thing for you from whole cloth. That's so lazy and uninspired. So I think the unfortunate laziness that is inherent to human, the human condition, I think there's a lot of potential for that in AI to really encourage people to be lazy.
Yeah, because that's the problem, is like it feels like a lot of people just want to be lazy and not put in the work to actually make the art or write a good story, because you could just have a computer do it. And it's like, well, then where's the soul in all of that then? If you could just, because by that logic, then I could just do that myself then. Why do I need to pay someone else for art that they're having, pushed into something like that,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we're on the bleeding edge here of technology, and we'll all see where this goes. I'm not hopeful for the arts for AI. I think it's mostly a bad thing, but it's not. Nobody asked me. This stuff is here and it's here to stay. So you better figure out how to work around it. That's what I tell people. I think bitching and crying and wishing it didn't exist, that's foolish. That's for children. The real adult opinion is, hey, this is here. It's only getting more powerful. What can I do about it? I think too many people, and I'll end on this. I have to go. Too many people, any problem they have, mental, physical, spiritual, interpersonal with other people, any problem they have, they look outward. They say, he needs to stop doing that. This shouldn't be this way. That shouldn't be that way. When the only real answer ever for any problem you have is, what is my part in this? DC Comics wants me to make a filthy Superman. Should I stop them? I can't. Or should I leave and do my own thing? That's the real answer. Deadpool, absolute filth. Should I call Disney and say, you're not allowed to make that movie? I say so. Like, what? They're going to listen to me? No. Here's what I can do. I can not buy a ticket and I can make my own stuff. I don't need to stop them. I need to do better than them. So I think any problem you have in life, that's what you need to do, is ask yourself, what is my part in this? Whether someone is mistreating you, someone has done this, you don't like that, you don't like this. And again, let's do one more about the filth of the world. Cheetos and Lunchables, all the artificial ingredients. Should I call my congressman and say, you need to outlaw soda? No, I should just not drink it very often. It's what is my part, my personal responsibility. So I would encourage everyone out there, be personally responsible. You can do it. Okay, I got to go unless you have any last thing, or I got to go, though. It's noon and I have an appointment I got to get to. So.
Yes, sir. Last thing. Any shout outs you want to give to anyone in particular? Anything else you want to say before we close out?
Just follow me on all socials. YouTube. I use my name everywhere, just Gabe Eltaeb, except on Twitter. It's Big Man Comics. It's Gabe Eltaeb, Big Man Comics, but I think the handle is just Big Man Comics. Follow me everywhere. Like and subscribe. And guys, interact with the algorithm. If you see me on YouTube or somewhere, hit the like, leave a comment. That makes the algorithm go. That promotes the videos. Yeah. Also here for Master Swag King, make sure you hit the like and share it out and leave comments, because that drives it. Yeah. That's the way you can thank us, because you love what we're doing here for you, entertaining you, giving you content, giving you something to chew on and think about. Likes, comments, interacting with it, not just consuming and turning off. That really helps. So would it be crazy to ask you to do that today? So that's all I got to say about that. BigManComics.com. You can get all kinds of awesome merchandise there, and great books are coming and being made, will be delivered to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you to Gabe. It was great to finally have you on and talk to you. We've been trying to get this done for, a long time at this point. It was great to finally have it happen. Can't wait to have you on again, and we will see you guys later. Have a great day, everybody. Peace. Deuces.